kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, faster than my bullet. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, faster than my bullet.
Breeze in your hair, breeze in your smile. Took a little picture in my mind. Breathe in.
Ooh, I got a new one for you. I like the way that sounds. I'm about to do it for you. I like to break it down. This joint has got me open. Ooh, that's my favorite song. I put my thing in motion. I do it all night long.
Breeze in your hair, breeze in your smile. Took a little picture in my mind. Breathe in the air, breathe in a while. Ain't nobody gonna live your life. I'm seeing things through a different lens. At the thought of getting older, the heart of getting older. I see the journey and the road.
Ooh, I got a new one for you. I like the way that sounds. I'm about to do it for you. I like to break it down. This joint has got me open. Ooh, that's my favorite song. I put my thing in motion.
All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, faster than my bullet. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses. Better run, faster than my bullet.
Everyone, good morning. Will you please welcome back to the stage Dan Galpin.
Hey! Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for getting here bright and early in the morning, for listening to us when we said things were starting a half an hour early. Welcome to everyone on the live stream and all the people who are watching in our viewing parties. So just a couple of notes about today. One is that we do not have lightning talks today. We only have 40 and 20-minute sessions, and please, try to stay for both 20-minute sessions if you can. Check the schedule one more time to make sure that you don't miss your favorite or perhaps least favorite engineer or topic at the office hours. And one more thing is you probably noticed there was a schedule change this morning. The D8 and R8 talk is not happening because Mr. Wharton had a special project that he calls 23E, for those who are following him on Twitter, and we congratulate him on that. And so instead we'll have Trash Talk, which is a great talk with Chet and Romain happening in the other room. But the exciting part right now is that we have an esteemed group of people to be talking about the future of Android and Foldable. Please welcome Andre, Adrian, and Jisun. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Unfortunately, at this moment, simulated display does not handle touch. We are working on improving this experience in the upcoming releases, and we are going to be adding new developer tools. With all these new and existing platforms, you can choose to simply optimize your app or build some unique multi-screen experience. You can decide whether you want to support multiple activity instances, test your app, and set corresponding launch modes. Don't forget that in this case, multiple activities may be focused and receive user input at the same time. Also, consider using a shared source of data with multiple view models in your app and take advantage of other architecture components. With that, back to Adrian.
Thanks, Andrew. So we've talked about what's available today. Let's also look a bit more about what we're going to do in the future to support you with targeting foldables and multi-display devices. In the short term, this applies mostly for Android Pie, we're working on developer guidelines, and we're going to show you how to best target foldables and multi-display devices. We're also working on a blog post that's going to go live in the following days, which will have more information about everything we talked about. And we're also working with Samsung to release an emulator where you can develop and test your apps against the configuration change behaviors and the multi-resume behaviors that their device is going to have. Looking a bit more into the future, with future versions of Android, we're implementing support in AOSP for foldables and multi-display devices. And as part of this, we're also going to improve the AOSP emulator, so it will have support for simulating all those foldable and multi-display behaviors, as Andre also mentioned. Finally, some pointers on where you can find more information. In the following days, as I mentioned, we'll have this blog post up. There's also a Samsung developer site where you will find more information about Samsung's devices and their guidelines. And for testing your apps, the Samsung emulator will also be available on their website sometime in Q4. OK. At this point, I would also like to thank you for all the amazing experiences you developers are building for Android. And we're really excited to see what you will do next and what you will create next on this new form factor of foldable devices. Thank you. If you have any questions, we'll be in
for you. I like the way that sounds. I'm about to do it for you. I like to break it down. This joint has got me open. Ooh, that's my favorite song. I put my thing in motion.
Good morning. I'm Chris.
I'm Alan.
And we're here today to talk about the cost of a pixel, specifically the colors that you choose in your apps and how they directly affect the battery uses of your users' devices. So before we do that, we need to think about the actual technology that goes into users' devices, and specifically the display technologies. Now, there are two prevailing kind of technologies that are in most devices, LCD and OLED.
Try to reduce the work you're running in the background. Think about, do I really need to run in the background? Can this wait till my app is in foreground? And think about, do I need to run with this frequency? Maybe reduce some work I'm doing in the background. And if you really need to run in the background, try to defer that work to a later time, say when device is plugged in, or think about that exact alarm. Does it have to happen at that exact time? Can it wait? And finally, try to coalesce the work you do in the background. So in Lollipop, we introduced Job Scheduler, which is a way for you to help the system to intelligently batch all the background work. And this year, we introduced Work Manager in Jetpack, which makes running background work easier. And since when it hits stable, it will be the recommended way to do background work. So with that in mind, let's look at this upgraded view of how you do things in the background. If you're running a work, if you need to execute a work or do a sync that's deferrable locally, then Work Manager is your answer. If this work is triggered online, then you would use a FCM message with Work Manager, meaning you would want to use FCM message to notify your app that there's some work you need to do or you need to sync with the app server, and then in the message handler, you enqueue that work. If your user case doesn't fit with either of these cases, and you need to run something at that exact time, then you would want to use Alarm Manager. Finally, if this is something that the user started, user is aware that it's running, and it must happen immediately right now, then you would use foreground service. But please, whenever you're using this foreground service, add that action in the notification, because there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a bunch of notifications, but there's nothing I can do about them. Because foreground service notification, you cannot dismiss them. So please add that action in the notification for user to stop their service, and then notification is dismissed. And if you reach the end, I would say go back to the top, or you should wait until your app is in foreground. So we have a Work Manager talk later today at 1 p.m. Please go to that to learn how you can use Work Manager to do background work. And we also have a lot of best practices and guidance on how you can help us to help users save battery in this Power Block series. Please visit to learn more. And we will be in the office hour this afternoon for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, the next session in this room will begin in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Ooh, I got a new one for you. I like the way that sounds. I'm about to do it for you. I like to break it down. This joint has got me open. Ooh, that's my favorite song. I put my thing in motion. I do it all night long.
Breeze in your
thanks for coming. Welcome to the Working with Work Manager session. My name is Samir Kataria. I'm a software engineer at Google.
Hi, my name is Rahul Ravikumar. I'm also a software engineer at Google.
And we both work on Android architecture components, particularly Work Manager. Let me grab my... All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to give you a state of the union about Work Manager. It was released at Google I/O. I want to give you an abbreviated guide to Work Manager tags. You can easily identify all the work that's yours. You don't have to worry about other people's work. You don't have to deal with any of that. You can just get your work and operate on just that if you don't know the IDs. Finally, we do provide the ability for apps to wipe away all work. And this is generally for privacy reasons. This is not something we expect to be called, but it's for that sort of critical use case where you have to wipe user data for some reason. So as a library developer, how do you find out if your work's been wiped or gone from under you? You should look at get last cancel all time millis. It's a very confusing name. OK, next steps. So get Work Manager if you haven't already. And for those of you who have, thank you very much. Your feedback's been invaluable. We're up to Alpha 11. So there's 3 general categories of artifacts here. There's the runtime. There's the KTX stuff, which includes a coroutines worker that we just put in. So you don't have to write your own. And then there's testing support as well. These are some helpful links. Schedule task with Work Manager is the developer.android.com section for Work Manager. There's the YouTube. On YouTube, there's the Google I/O 2018 talk, which talks about all the basics in much greater length. Some of those APIs have changed a little bit, but it's still broadly a good thing to read or to listen to. And also, please file your feedback at our public issue tracker. Beta is coming. We were told that this morning or last morning as well, so we're kind of, we have to go back to work. But thanks a lot. Please visit all the Jetpack libraries on the web, and we'll be outside for any questions that you might have. Thanks.
Thanks.
Everyone, the next session in this room will begin at 1:55 p.m. Thank you.
All the other kids with the bumped up kisses better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses better run, faster than my bullet. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses better run, now run my gun. All the other kids with the bumped up kisses better run, faster than my bullet. I do it all night long.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us at Best Practices for Themes and Styles. I'm Alan. Hi, my name is Nick Butcher.
And we're going to be talking about some ways to think about themes and styles at a high level and how to apply those when you're designing themes and styles for your application. So first, let's start at a high level, the way that designers create mocks and the way that developers are interpreting them. So here's the latest iteration of the material.
Act as the link. The initial settings hierarchy is going to be just as we've done before. So again, we start with the root preference screen tag, and we just have two basic preferences, one for syncing and one for messages. It's important, well, you may want to add an icon here to the start of the preference to provide some more context to the user, as we don't really have an important summary display here. This is just done by defining a drawable with the icon attribute. So this will just be something in your res drawable directory. And now the only thing left to do is just define the links between the fragments. So to do this, we use the fragment attribute, and we just set the fully qualified class name of the fragment. If your fragment is a nested inner class, you'll need to use the $sign to separate the outer class and the inner class. And that's it for the hierarchy. The activity is very similar to what we had before. We just set the initial settings screen to be displayed. The only difference here is that we should implement this method, onPreferenceStartFragment. This method is called when a user taps on a preference that has an associated fragment and allows you to customize any transitions or animations between fragments. There is a default implementation, so if you don't override this method, we will still handle it for you, but you won't have any nice transitions or animations that you may want. And the fragments are going to be exactly the same as before. Again, all we need to do here is just override onCreatePreferences and set the relevant XML resource.